Space Guardians, buckle up. Today's deep dive takes us right to the heart of Space Force intelligence. Space Delta Publication 2.0.
Okay.
Your blueprint for navigating the intel landscape.
That's right.
We're going beyond the theoretical here.
Yeah.
SDP 2.0 is the doctrine, the real deal,
Right.
for how the USSF gathers
Yeah.
and uses intel to make decisions and achieve its mission.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Sure.
First things first.
Yeah.
Why should every Space Force Guardian, from those on the flight line to those at mission control,
Right.
care about intelligence?
Because in the space domain, knowledge truly is power.
Okay.
SDP 2.0 drives home the point that at every level, the Space Force relies on intel. Whether you're tracking a potential adversary satellite or analyzing radio frequency interference,
Right.
understand the intelligence picture is mission critical.
So it's not just for the analyst tucked away in a dark room somewhere.
Not at all. Every Guardian needs to be a sensor, a collector, and an analyst in their own right.
Okay.
And to grasp how this works, we need to visualize the structure of the Space Force.
Yeah?
Keeping in mind that intelligence is interwoven throughout. Think of it as a pyramid.
All right. Pyramid power.
Yeah.
At the very top, we've got the Office of the Chief of Space Operations, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
But this isn't a one-person show.
Right.
Reporting directly to the chief are three major commands.
Okay.
Space Operations Command,
Okay.
Space Systems Command,
Okay.
and Space Training and Readiness Command.
Right.
Each of these commands is like a pillar supporting the Space Force mission.
So we've got SPOC, SSC, and STARCOM.
You got it.
But how does intelligence function within this structure?
Yeah.
Is it like having a separate intelligence department in each?
You're on the right track,
Okay.
but it's more integrated than that.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Each of these commands has a specific role in the intelligence process.
Right.
And they all work together.
Okay.
Let's take a closer look at each one, starting with Space Operations Command, or SPOC, since they're responsible for day-to-day operations in space.
Makes sense. They're the ones on the front lines, so to speak.
Right.
What's their intelligence setup?
Within SPOC,
Yeah.
you've got Delta 5,
Okay.
which is essentially the nerve center for space situational awareness.
Okay.
They're running the show at the Combined Space Operations Center,
Mhm.
or CSPOC,
Right.
constantly monitoring the space domain
Okay.
for any threats.
CSPOC. Now that sounds important. What exactly goes down there?
It's all about maintaining that clear and accurate picture of what's happening in space.
Okay.
We're talking 24/7 monitoring for everything from potential collisions with space debris to detecting adversary activities.
Right.
They're providing early warnings and even working to mitigate things like electromagnetic interference that could disrupt our space systems.
Wow. Delta 5 has quite the responsibility on their shoulders.
They do.
Always on alert, watching for anything out of the ordinary.
That's right.
So that's space situational awareness. But
Yeah.
what about actual intelligence gathering?
That's where Delta 7 comes into play.
Okay.
This is the Space Force's operational intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance element.
Okay.
The eyes and ears, if you will.
Hold on. ISR.
Right.
For those who might be new to this world,
Sure.
can you break that down a bit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance is all about gathering information from a variety of sources, analyzing it,
Right.
and turning it into actionable intelligence
Yeah.
that commanders can use to make informed decisions.
Okay.
Delta 7 is doing this day in and day out,
Okay.
using a mix of space-based and terrestrial sensors to provide that critical understanding of the space domain.
So they're not just watching space. They're actively collecting data and feeding it back to decision makers.
That's right.
What kinds of intelligence products does Delta 7 produce?
They deliver what's called tailored intelligence products.
Okay.
What's fascinating here is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Delta 7 crafts specific products for other space deltas, combatant commanders who need space-based intel,
Right.
and even for our intelligence community partners.
Tailored intel, that's fascinating. It's like they're providing the exact pieces of the puzzle each recipient needs to get the full picture.
Right.
Speaking of puzzles,
Yeah.
Delta 7 can't possibly be doing all this alone, right?
You're right. It's a team effort.
Okay.
And this brings us to a crucial point in SDP 2.0 partnerships. The Space Force understands that seamless collaboration with other intelligence agencies is paramount.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
We're talking about a whole network of 18 agencies in the intelligence community, each with their own specialties.
That's right.
What are some examples of how the Space Force links up with these partners?
Let's take the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, for instance.
Okay.
They have a dedicated center focused on, you guessed it, missile and space intelligence.
Right.
They provide Space Force Guardians with the latest intel on foreign space capabilities.
Okay.
What kinds of satellites other countries are launching. What those satellites can do.
Right.
Even their potential vulnerabilities.
So it's like having a direct line to experts who are laser focused on what our adversaries are up to in space.
It is.
What other key players are there?
We can't forget about the National Security Agency,
Right.
or NSA.
Okay.
They're the masters of signals intelligence, the intercepting and decoding communications.
Right.
In an age where space systems rely heavily on data transmission, SIGINT is becoming increasingly vital for the Space Force.
So the NSA helps the Space Force listen in on what those satellites are saying, essentially.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
They provide a deeper understanding of how adversaries are using their space capabilities.
Right.
Which is critical for anticipating threats and protecting our own assets.
That's some serious spycraft stuff.
Yeah.
Are there any other agencies that play a crucial role in this intelligence web?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Another major contributor is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency,
Okay.
or NGA.
Okay.
They are the experts in imagery analysis. Think high-resolution satellite imagery that can spot objects and activities on Earth from space.
Okay, so they're providing the visual intel,
Right.
the hard evidence of what's happening on the ground.
That's right.
How does that tie into what the Space Force needs?
It's all about connecting the dots.
Okay.
The NGA's imagery analysis, combined with Delta 7's intel gathering and the DIA's insights into foreign capabilities,
Right.
creates a much richer understanding of the space domain
Yeah.
and its implications for everything from military operations to diplomacy.
It sounds like a truly collaborative effort, with each agency bringing its unique expertise to the table. We've covered SPOC and its role in intelligence operations and space situational awareness.
Right.
What about Space Systems Command? We know they're responsible for acquiring, developing, and launching all those amazing space systems.
Sure.
Where does intelligence fit into their mission?
That's a great question.
Okay.
SSC is where those cutting-edge technologies are born. And SDP 2.0 emphasizes that they need to be designed with the latest intelligence in mind.
Okay.
It's about ensuring those billion-dollar satellites and other systems can not only survive, but thrive in a contested space environment.
So SSC is taking all this intel about potential threats and vulnerabilities and baking it directly into the design of our space system.
Exactly.
Okay.
They work hand in glove with the program offices, the engineers,
Right.
the whole acquisition team,
Right.
to make sure our space capabilities are a step ahead of any adversary.
Okay.
They're even collaborating with other agencies like the National Reconnaissance Office, which is responsible for developing and operating our nation's most secretive intelligence-gathering satellites.
That makes perfect sense. You wouldn't want to send $1 billion asset into space only to have it blinded or disabled because you didn't anticipate a new threat.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, Space Training and Readiness Command,
Right.
or STARCOM.
Right, because what good is all this incredible intel if our guardians aren't trained to use it effectively?
Exactly.
It's like having the most advanced spaceship in the galaxy, but nobody who knows how to fly it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
STARCOM's entire purpose is to make sure our Space Force guardians are trained and ready.
Right.
And a huge part of that is understanding and applying intelligence in their respective roles.
So how does STARCOM approach this?
Yeah.
Do they have their own dedicated intelligence branch?
They've got intelligence experts integrated throughout the command,
All right.
from headquarters down to the individual Delta units.
Right.
It's a distributed network,
All right.
which means training and education are tailored to each unit's specific needs.
It's like STARCOM is saying,
Right.
okay, you're in Delta 6, responsible for cyber operations. Here's
Right.
how you can use intel to anticipate and counter cyber attacks in the space domain.
Precisely.
Okay.
And they go beyond just the what of intelligence. They focus on the
Okay.
how to analyze threats, interpret data,
Okay.
and most importantly, apply that knowledge in real-world scenarios.
It's not just about knowing the information, it's about knowing what to do with it, right?
Right.
What are some of the ways STARCOM trains Guardians to think critically about intelligence?
One of the coolest things they do is run these incredibly realistic training simulations.
Okay.
We're talking about war games designed to put Guardians through their paces,
Okay.
forcing them to make decisions under pressure using the latest intel available.
Wow, so they're simulating real-world threats and challenges.
That's right.
Forcing Guardians to think on their feet and use intelligence to gain an advantage.
Exactly. Delta 11 within STARCOM
Right.
is at the forefront of developing these scenarios.
Okay.
They use the latest intel to create incredibly realistic space war games,
Okay.
essentially allowing Guardians to test their skills against simulated adversaries.
Okay.
It's about as close to the real deal as you can get without actually launching into orbit.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like they're training Guardians to be chess masters in space,
Right.
anticipating their opponent's moves and always staying one step ahead.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And speaking of looking ahead,
Okay.
one of the most intriguing aspects of SDP 2.0 is its emphasis on partnerships beyond the traditional military sphere.
Okay, now we're talking. It's bigger than just the Department of Defense.
It is.
Who else is the Space Force teaming up with?
The document specifically calls out the importance of working with other government agencies,
Okay.
international allies,
Mm-hmm.
and even the commercial sector.
Wow.
Space is a team sport,
Right.
and this really highlights that.
So it's about recognizing that the Space Force doesn't have a monopoly on good ideas or cutting-edge technology.
Right, exactly.
Where does that collaboration really come into play?
Let's start with a partnership that might seem obvious. NASA.
Okay.
While their primary mission is exploration and scientific discovery,
Right.
they have a vested interest in things like deep space situational awareness,
Right.
tracking objects far beyond Earth's orbit.
That makes sense.
Right.
Both NASA and the Space Force need to know what's out there,
Right.
whether it's a potential asteroid threat or, well, anything else zipping through the cosmos.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they both benefit from sharing data and expertise in areas like tracking potentially hazardous near-Earth objects.
Right.
You never know. Someday, that collaboration could be what saves the planet.
That's a comforting thought. What about partnerships a bit closer to home?
Well, the Department of Commerce plays a critical role.
Okay.
They're deeply involved in tracking all the stuff we've put into space satellites,
Right.
debris,
Mhm.
even those spent rocket stages we hear about.
Right. It's getting pretty crowded up there.
It is.
So having a clear picture of what's zipping around is crucial, especially as the Space Force looks to avoid collisions and protect our valuable assets.
Exactly.
Okay?
And then there are the international partnerships.
Right.
As space becomes more congested and contested,
Right.
working alongside our allies is more important than ever.
Makes sense.
Think about it. Sharing information and coordinating responses to potential threats is crucial for maintaining a secure and stable space environment for everyone.
It's like having a global neighborhood watch for space.
Yeah,
But instead of looking out for suspicious cars, we're looking out for suspicious satellites.
exactly.
Okay.
And the Space Force is actively working to strengthen those relationships through joint exercises,
Right.
data sharing agreements,
Right.
even developing common standards for space operations.
So we've got government agencies,
Right.
international allies. Any other players in this space game?
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
SDP 2.0 explicitly encourages the Space Force to tap into the ingenuity of the commercial sector and academia.
Wow. Okay.
And think about it. Some commercial companies have developed incredibly sophisticated remote sensing and imagery analysis capabilities
Right.
that rival,
Mhm.
even surpass,
Yeah.
what governments have traditionally developed.
That's remarkable. So the Space Force is partnering with companies that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space.
They are.
What are some of the benefits there?
It's about leveraging their technology, their innovation,
Right.
and, frankly, their agility.
Okay.
These companies are often developing new solutions at a pace that traditional acquisition processes just can't match.
So it's a win-win.
Right.
The companies get to test and improve their technology,
Right.
and the Space Force gets access to cutting-edge capabilities that can give them an edge.
Exactly.
What about working with universities?
Universities are doing groundbreaking research in everything from astrophysics to orbital mechanics to, believe it or not,
Yeah.
space law.
Okay.
Tapping into that academic brainpower gives the Space Force a fresh perspective on the challenges and opportunities in the space domain.
It's like they're saying, hey, we know we don't have all the answers.
Right?
Let's bring in some of the brightest minds out there to help us navigate this new frontier.
Precisely. And that, I think, is the most important takeaway from SDP 2.0.
Okay.
It's not just a document about collecting intel.
Right.
It's a call to action for the entire Space Force.
Okay.
A reminder that to maintain superiority in space, you need to be adaptable,
Right.
to be innovative,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, to be collaborative on a scale we've never seen before.
Because the space domain is changing faster than ever.
It is.
And the threats are becoming more complex.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need every advantage you can get.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us back to you, our listeners.
Right.
The guardians on the front lines of this new era.
Okay.
What does this all mean for you?
What does it mean to be a Space Force guardian in a world where intelligence drives everything from strategy to operations to even the design of our technology?
It means your role in this intelligence ecosystem is more critical than ever.
Right.
Whether you're directly involved in intelligence gathering and analysis or working in a completely different capacity.
Your ability to understand and apply intelligence
Yeah.
will be key to the success of the U.S. Space Force.
It's not just about knowing where a satellite is or what kind of sensor it has. It's
Right.
about understanding the so what.
Right.
What does that piece of information mean in the context of the mission, in the context of national security?
Right.
How can you use that intelligence to make better decisions,
Right.
to take decisive action?
Exactly.
Right.
And that requires more than just technical skills.
Okay.
It requires critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It requires adaptability.
Right.
It requires a willingness to challenge assumptions.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, it requires a deep understanding of not just the what of intelligence,
Right.
but the why.
Because at the end of the day, it's about protecting our nation's interests in space.
Mm-hmm.
It's about ensuring that space remains a domain for peace,
Right.
for exploration, for discovery.
Yes.
And that, my friends, is a mission worth fighting for. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with this thought.
Okay.
As you go about your duties, keep your eyes on the horizon.
Okay.
The future of space intelligence, the technologies that will shape the next decade of space operations are being developed right now.
Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the ones to lead the way,
That's right.
forging new partnerships, developing groundbreaking technologies, and ensuring that the United States remains a dominant force for good in space for generations to come.
That's a mission worth signing up for. This has been a deep dive indeed.
It has.
And we hope our listeners come away with a deeper understanding of the intricate and vitally important world of Space Force intelligence.
Yes.
Until next time, thanks for joining us.